This is Studies in Compassion, and my name is Rosamund Janowski, here for my final video in this compassion course. After everything that has happened in this class, I'm finally able to put everything together in this final project that I made here today. At the beginning of this course, I thought that I would not engage much with the material being taught. I first found myself comparing compassion to things like kindness and sympathy, and after seeing the definitions, I found it a bit foolish to get overly specific about the definitions. But now, I realize that it truly is important to know compassion in its truest form, and to be able to know the differences between things like sympathy, empathy, and kindness alongside it. And I was able to engage and explore what compassion really meant to me by connecting my own experiences through the course with the forums, the readings, and the activities. And I was able to further hope to further my true compassionate self. I hope that I may communicate this here today. Firstly, I'd like to discuss how compassion is felt. Over this course, I have learned that compassion can vary for those around me, relying upon many different factors. An important part of compassion is being taught how to even show it. Learning compassion can be different depending on who teaches it, the environment that it's taught in, and how compassion is perceived by those. I best learned that compassion can vary in the world around me through the cultural project that we worked on in this class. For the place that I talked about, which is in Tamil Nadu, India, I found that there was many social barriers that tended to cause struggles in compassion, such as the lingering values of the caste system and the oppressive ideas that came from it. These challenges to compassion often resulted in things like cruelty and oppression, like the lower castes, and the honor killings that resulted from these. On the other hand, there was also evidence that shown that compassion is still able to be preserved in Tamil, such as the fact that it is a core virtue and a spiritual duty for those who are in Hindu culture. This all shows how motivation, awareness, alongside strong values, are an important part of compassion. Not everyone is able to be compassionate in this world. From this, we can learn that acting as a model as well as a leader can be important for teaching compassion. This is best described in Chapter 13 of Compassion, Concepts, Research, and Applications when Daniel Martin and Jotam Heinberg state on page 221 that transformational leadership involves the appreciation of the needs to be met in order to avoid suffering and promote flourishing in others in the organization. Spreading a compassionate environment to others will provide a safe space, while also facilitating a strong community of compassion and understanding. And from this quote, I found myself specifically thinking about the interview that I'd done with my father, in which he had mentioned the ways that his local police officers had helped him learn what compassion is when he was younger.
We weren't uh like my father figure,
Mm-hmm.
my dad, he never showed his feelings, never
Mm-hmm.
showed compassion or anything.
Yeah.
Uh, and when I met the police officers I did growing up, then all of a sudden I realized, hey, this is okay.
Yeah. And did you pretty much so from those other experiences, you were able to learn how to handle yourself, how to care for yourself, and how to care for others?
Yes, I did.
Mm-hmm. My father had struggled in finding compassion from his family, but he fortunately had people who would reach out to him from the community, and from this, he was inspired to want to become a compassionate role model himself and be like those police officers who helped him. Comparing this situation to the cultural project, I found myself realizing that community, strong values, and compassion can be found all around the world, but it just shows itself in different ways, and it's faced with different challenges depending on the context of those who we are looking at and what lens we are looking at them from. And as we can see from this, compassion can also have its complexities. Compassion can be difficult to give, or it can result in regret when someone figures out a certain morality of the situation. This is rather similar to when we were learning about the Compassionate Prison Project in week 13. It was a difficult situation where we had to choose between things of right and wrong and to think about what it really means for compassion. Although these people did bad things to land themselves in prison, it raises questions of whether or not they should still be shown compassion. Similarly, I found that in my interviews, many of my interviewees were able to find times where they regretted showing compassion to someone because of the fact that reaching out had resulted in something negative.
I can think of a specific time where I was involved in a church organization, and it was actually like a church ministry is like a motorcycle ministry. It's just
Yeah.
kind of a niche kind of a thing.
Hmm.
And I had compassion on another couple. They were older than my husband and I, and they didn't have a lot of money. Not that we did either, because we didn't. But they were coming to these motorcycle meetings, and they had a heart for people and for their Christian faith or whatever. But they didn't have a motorcycle. They couldn't afford
Yeah.
it, and so we gave them one.
Oh.
We just gave them a motorcycle. Now we could have had a few $1,000s for that, but we really felt that, that was just something that would enrich their lives. They could go out and do the work and do the things and be a part of the group, and
Yeah.
they wouldn't have to feel left out, and
Mhm.
they could, that they had a real heart for it. But it wasn't very long after that that they sort of dropped out of the group, and then we saw that they were selling it on Facebook.
Yeah.
And so maybe I wasn't really solving their problem. Maybe I was enabling them, or maybe
Mhm.
if they where I thought I was being kind and compassionate, but maybe I was being taken advantage of.
This shows how compassion is a complicated experience, and it involves making choices and judgments. In Chapter 3 of Compassion Concepts and Applications, on page 59, Paul Gilbert states that choosing our actions wisely in order to develop motivation and competencies such as caring and compassion is part of behavioral development. This quote helps me remember that remaining compassionate involves not letting these moments of doubt stop me from remaining motivating and caring as a person to further be better at my compassion. Next, I'd like to discuss compassion and its background. Throughout this course, I was able to learn that compassion is something that we're all meant to be born with, and it was something that was natural to us at some point. Despite this, there are complexities in human nature that act as restrictions and barriers to compassion. Although prehistoric humans were able to act upon compassion naturally, the development of humans socially, it further complicates how the compassion develops, whether it be further to others or closer to the self. In Chapter 2 of Compassion Concepts, Research, and Applications on page 27, Penny Spickens states that our compassion for cruelty and inability to care for the environment calls into question in what sense we as a species can be really seen as better than the alternatives. Because of the changes in these emotional capacities, we have developed to prioritize different things and even become more distant from the compassion that we were first born with. We are all raised in different experiences, and from these experiences, our exposure to compassion and empathy can be very different. When a family is raising someone in a secure nest, then compassion will likely come more naturally, yet an environment of instability will inhibit this possibility. In Chapter 10 of Compassion Concepts, Research, and Applications on page 179, Garcia Narvaez says that knowledgeable, loving care provides extensive experiences of intersubjectivity critical for establishing conscious and unconscious capacities for empathizing and sympathizing. As well as when she said, experiential deficits may damage capacities for empathizing and sympathizing. Children may be born with compassion, but an unstable environment may result in the prevention of developing intersubjectivity and empathy with others without those experiences, whether it be due to isolation, fear, or other struggles. Similarly, the brain activity of oxytocin can also be interchangeably linked with the compassionate activity in caregiving and attachment strategies. In Chapter 6 of Compassion Concepts, Research, and Applications, on page 109, Colanello, Petrocchi, and Heinrich state oxytocin increases the ease of imagined compassionate qualities. However, participants in lower attachment security, self-reassurance, and social safety, and higher in self-criticism had less positive CFI experiences. This suggests that the attachment styles and self-evaluation that we have can tie in with the compassion on a scientific and biological basis, such as the way that participants were more drawn towards compassionate qualities. Lastly, to create compassionate people, we as people, whether it be as role models, leaders, parents, so on and so forth, we have to bring compassion to those around us. Throughout this course, I analyzed compassion and tried to think about what I needed to understand the most and what can be most important for me to remember going on forward from this class. From that, I believe that the aforementioned intersubjectivity and interaction can be a crucial part of what it means to be truly compassionate. By learning the stories, struggles, and experiences of others, we can truly reach a truly wonderful connection that is both vulnerable and enlightening in its own way. In my interviews that I conducted, I believe that the interviewees could see the importance of these shared stories as well. What do you think would be like an experience with compassion do you hold most close?
To me,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. I would say taking care of your grandfather when he was in hospice care, and I was the one
Mm-hmm.
giving him the medication and helping him and cleaning him and feeding him and all that.
Yeah.
I would say because I was able to share the last moments with him, even
Yeah.
the last breath, and we did have good conversation at times until, he was very, very unwell with cancer. He had
Yeah.
leukemia, as you know. Um, but yeah, I feel like I connected with him on a deeper level, even more than him being my dad. I got to see the man that he
Mhm.
was, the thoughts that were in his mind,
Would you
and
say that it was more like sharing like the suffering, the vulnerability in that?
yes, because he allowed me to take care of him, and he was a very big, very proud man
Mm-hmm.
who was a warehouse worker all his life, and for me he actually asked for me and not my other two sisters to help,
Mm-hmm.
maybe because he seen that in me, that I just was gentle, and he
Mm-hmm.
didn't feel like I'd judge him, so I
Yeah.
I helped him change his clothing and just everything, and he just liked me to be by his side. He'd even tell me to push my chair next to his recliner and kind of be near him at all times because he was frightened.
And out of all of your experiences with compassion, which one would you say is the most meaningful?
Oh gosh. I think compassion with my wife and that's most meaningful.
Mm-hmm.
We've been together for I think 59 years,
Mm-hmm.
and she's put up with me for 59 years. So, there's a lot of compassion there for each other.
And what would you say was like most meaningful about those moments with you?
Understanding.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, she knows my moods, my
Mm-hmm.
stance, so she had a lot of compassion to understand what I was going through
Mm-hmm.
and what I was doing. You
So you
know,
liked the connection that you guys have with each other and that you
yes,
can understand those moments you're going through?
yes, exactly.
Mm-hmm. Through moments of understanding, yet remaining true to ourselves, giving our different perspectives as people while also sharing our hearts in our own ways, it allows us to take this final step from distant sympathy and allows us to become compassionate people. In the future, I want to hold all of these values of compassion, as well as the stories that I've learned along the way, very close to my heart moving forward. This course has taught me a lot about myself, about others, and it's allowed me to see those who are close to me, those who are further from me. Thank you so much for your time.